I came, I saw, I conquered. 1st century BC. This quote describes Julius Caesar's swift and decisive victory over Phoenices II of Pontus, and has come to represent a conqueror's mentality. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. This quote represents Seneca's belief in the 1st century AD on the importance of using time wisely and avoiding distractions that prevent us from living a fulfilling life. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. This quote is from John F. Kennedy's inaugural address and calls on Americans to put the needs of the nation above their own personal interests. Religion is the opium of the people. This quote represents Karl Marx's belief from the 19th century that religion is used to pacify the masses and prevent them from questioning the status quo. I am not a crook. This quote is from Richard Nixon's denial of involvement in the Watergate scandal in 1973 and has become a symbol of political corruption. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. This quote from Charles Darwin in the 19th century expresses the idea that adaptability and flexibility are key to survival and success. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. This quote is from Winston Churchill's first speech in 1940 as Prime Minister and represents his determination to fight against Nazi aggression during World War II. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. This quote is from George Orwell's book Animal Farm from the 20th century and represents the idea that power corrupts and leads to inequality. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. This quote represents Socrates' belief in the 5th century BC on the importance of humility and the pursuit of knowledge. I cannot tell a lie. This quote is from a legend in which George Washington, in the 18th century, confesses to cutting down a cherry tree as a child, representing the idea of honesty and integrity. The unexamined life is not worth living. This quote represents Socrates' belief from the 5th century BC that a life without self-reflection is not meaningful. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. This quote represents Martin Luther King's belief in the eventual triumph of justice and equality, despite setbacks and obstacles. Et tu, Brute? This quote is attributed to Julius Caesar in the 1st century BC, just upon realizing that his close friend Brutus was among the conspirators who plotted to assassinate him. In this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. This quote represents Benjamin Franklin's 18th century statements on the inevitability of certain aspects of life. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. This quote is Neil Armstrong's famous first words in 1969 upon setting foot on the moon, representing the idea of humanity's ability to achieve great feats. Tear down this wall. This quote is from Ronald Reagan's speech in 1987, in which he called for the dismantling of the Berlin Wall, representing the importance of freedom and human rights. I think, therefore I am. This quote represents René Descartes' belief in the 17th century in the power of human reasoning and the importance of self-awareness. All that glitters is not gold. This quote represents William Shakespeare's idea in the 16th century that appearances can be deceiving and that things are not always as they seem. If you want to make enemies, try to change something. This quote represents the challenges Woodrow Wilson defined in the 20th century of enacting change and the resistance that often accompanies it. To be or not to be, that is the question. This quote is from William Shakespeare's Hamlet from the 16th century and represents the existential question of whether to continue living or to end one's own life. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall never surrender. This quote represents 1940 Winston Churchill's determination to fight against Nazi aggression during World War II, no matter the cost. I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. This quote represents the importance of free speech and the defense of diverse opinions, even if one disagrees with them, by Evelyn Beatrice Hall, often misattributed to Voltaire, 20th century. Give me liberty or give me death. This quote represents Patrick Henry's passionate call in the 18th century to fight for American independence and the sacrifice he was willing to make for the cause. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. This quote represents Aristotle's belief from the 4th century BC that true excellence comes from consistent effort and dedication, rather than occasional acts of greatness. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This quote is from Thomas Jefferson from 1776, and it is part of the Declaration of Independence and is considered one of the most important statements of human rights in history.